From the City of Angels, you are listening to the James Salazar Media Podcast. On this week's episode, I'm going to talk about some politics. So let me strike the music and I'll meet you on the other side.
Engage.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Say hello to my little friend.
No, I am the Father.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
And welcome to the James Salazar Media Podcast. I'm your host, James Salazar, a.k.a. The Media, out here in Laughlin, California, on vacation, a little weekend, a little shootout to the river of Nevada. Pretty hot out here, 116. At its highest, it was 118, so it was a scorcher, but not really humid heat, just dry heat. But the river cools you off, so it's not so bad. Spent about 9 hours on the river yesterday. Today we're at the pool. Wanted to come in and shoot a little podcast to get one in and on this week. And so once again, the Democrats put all their eggs in one basket and hoping for obstruction of justice as they interviewed and interrogated Mueller. I think his name is Robert Mueller. It sounds like it would be. I don't know. I just know him as Mueller. Mueller Report. The Mueller Investigation. Mueller. Somebody should write a book called Mueller. So the Democrats were somehow expecting this to go their way. It doesn't go their way. I think what they were expecting Mueller to say is that there's certain liberties that the president has that if a more normal American would have done it, we would have prosecuted. But since my hands are tied, I couldn't. But this man is guilty of this, which would have led the Democrats to go to impeachment. But it didn't happen that way. In fact, the Republicans were ready, and they showed they led some questioning that led to show that this has been a witch hunt, and the justice has not been evenly laid, or the investigation has been evenly laid on all parties. It seems like they're trying to get the president's son meets with a Russian operative to get dirt on Hillary Clinton. He met with him for 20 minutes and realized that this was a joke and it was a waste of time. Who knows what would happen if he did find something? They might have a more stronger floor to stand on. But on the other side, Hillary Clinton did also met with Russian operatives or Russian people, met with them more often and twice as long on each time they met. And we know that this whole idea that Donald Trump colluded came from those meetings. So justice has not been evenly handed out amongst all the parties. It looks like they're singling Donald Trump because Donald Trump is the president. But unfortunately, once again, the Democrats have laid this before the people. They said, like the collusion, like the Mueller report, they expected it to come out to say that Donald Trump has ties to Russia and he was going to get persecuted or prosecuted for colluding against the American people to win the election. There's been no proof of that. They have not proved it. And the Democrats are left holding the bag where they put all their eggs into. They did it with collusion, and they did it with this obstruction of justice, which they were hoping Mueller would had said that would give them some leeway and some grounds for impeachment. But he didn't do that. He didn't know what was in the reports. And people suspect that he gave it to people who don't like the president, and they wrote it, but even they couldn't find any proof of collusion. There was a lot of innuendos that had no proof. And the president, who never helps his case, he tells them that he's been exonerated. Exonerated, and I understand what he meant. He meant that in the media. He's been exonerated in the media because the media were acting like he was guilty. For sure. Hands down, 100%. They were conducting themselves like he was guilty. But in the eyes of the law, you cannot be exonerated until you're found guilty. In this country, you are innocent until proven guilty. So he couldn't have been exonerated because he was never found guilty. And the Democrats, even they were stupid and tried to jump on and try to tell Mueller, did you exonerate the president? And he's like, no. and they didn't, and Mueller wasn't going to answer any questions that he wasn't asked. But a Republican congressman or senator, I'm not sure which one, Hatch, I think, said, is it in your power to exonerate people? He's all, no. Why didn't you say that? They didn't ask me that question, basically. Mueller is not in Mueller's power to exonerate somebody, nor is it in any judge's power to exonerate somebody who's not been proven guilty, because that's not how we work in America. We assume you're innocent and let the government try to prove you're guilty, because the power belongs to the people. We have set this parameters for the people to be innocent first and proven guilty, not guilty and they have to prove their innocence. Like every other nation. There's some nations that don't, that follow our lead. But we make it particular. You have to be proven guilty. And you have to be proven guilty through a jury. And if one juror dissents, you cannot be found guilty. It's not mob rule. You got to convince everyone in the jury, all 12 jurors, or I don't know, 12 jurors, have to unanimously vote that you're guilty. And if there's an inkling of reasonable doubt, you cannot convict. And a sad but sort of funny statement is that even with all these safety guards directed towards the American people, we have a very high incarceration rate. I mean, you're innocent until proven guilty. You have to be found guilty by a jury of your peers, and they have to be unanimously agree that you're guilty. Not one person can dissent. And if there is an inkling of reasonable doubt, they might put the most solid case effort. But if there is an inkling of doubt where you can doubt, it is your obligation and duty not to find that person guilty. Let the law do what they're supposed to do and do it right. And let the people who represent the people do what they're supposed to do. Look at when O.J. Simpson, who was clearly guilty, but the police screwed up and they did some stupid stuff that gave those black jurors a reason not to find him guilty. And this was back when white people found black people guilty because they were black. And who else could have done it? Everybody knows O.J. Simpson was guilty, but here was a moment in time that was so public that certain officers who did not do their job right gave the jury, in their mind, reasonable doubt. Especially that glove. Oh, if I loved you as a sports person, and I'm dealing with a lot of injustice done by the police in the late 80s, I've known certain brothers who were just convicted and later found out they were innocent, but to those who were eyewitness, it was a black person. A black person. Oh, you give me a reason for reasonable doubt? I don't know. Society was not as equal as it is today, and it has problems today. But guess what? Our forefathers wanted. If there's going to be an error in our legal system, it must err towards the citizen's advantage, not the government's. So this is a rant going totally off the subject. But Donald Trump needs no need for exoneration because he was not found guilty of anything. He's cleared of all suspicion. That's what he should have used. Now here are the Democrats. They ran on this towards the end. And they got to come out with something good now. They got to be about what they're going to do, not about what the president has done, which has turned out nothing. They wasted the American people's time and money and treasure. And now they're running. And now they're on these far extreme socialist agendas where everybody sort of goes along with it, like, oh yeah, we should be more socialist, but let that be for the poor people. But as long as middle class and upper middle class and rich and people who are just working, they're like, yeah, let that socialism come when I'm out of work. But until then, I want to keep this capitalistic system because I'm doing good right now. People want all the poor people want socialism. Absolutely. Who wouldn't want middle class to come down to their level so they're not alone? Because that's what it does. It doesn't give poor people better stuff. It doesn't. It just brings a middle class down, the lower middle class down to poverty, middle class down to lower middle class, upper middle class down to middle class, and the rich down to upper middle class, and the wealthy will always stay wealthy. That's all it does. It brings people down. It doesn't bring people up. There's nothing in socialism that teaches people how to prosper, teaches poor people how to get out of poverty. The only thing that gets people out of poverty since the history of economical system is capitalism. There's been no system ever, and I reiterate the word ever, that's gotten people out of poverty than capitalism. Over 2 billion people in the last 60 years have been lifted out of poverty, lifted out of dirt poorness because of capitalism. Don't be fooled. Don't listen to those idiots. They didn't come from socialism. So what are the Democrats going to do? Well, I think Joe Biden might be... There's some charismatic people. Kamala Harris. Beto, he makes a lot of mistakes, but he's pretty charismatic. Buttigieg. Even people like to hear Sanders, but he's never going to win. But Joe Biden, some of these people, I think Joe Biden's going to come out because all the other people are going so far left. This is how I see it, folks. I could be 100% wrong, but if you think I'm wrong, please put it in an email or go into any of my social media platforms and say how I'm full of the shit. You know, go to jamessalazarmedia@gmail.com. And if you want to follow me on any of my social media platforms, I'm pretty much on all of them. Just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up. Please subscribe to the email. And if you don't know, I'm ending this podcast right now. Please subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. I would greatly appreciate it. That would be awesome. So once they're hitting hard in the paint right now. But once December comes, oh shoot, this thing's gonna be set on fire. Get ready for your nuts to be set on fire on the political rhetoric. And when Donald Trump gets, believe it or not, the president is great, but he's great at running for office. He's gonna bring up some new names. He already got Pocahontas for Elizabeth Warren. So yeah, it's a brave new world, my friends. And this new election cycle is going to be super interesting. The Democrats are going to tear each other apart and then act like nothing was torn apart. And Donald Trump will be watching intensely for ammunition. And he has a lot of ammunition. He's going to talk about every investigation that brought no fruit. All the negative press that where he's going to lay the case of fake news, opinion news, is why he has not gotten the credit that he's due. And they're going to have to answer for that. And CNN's not going to like it. CSNBC is not going to like it. Fox, they're going to laugh. So, my friends, as the storm of life come against you really hard, you find yourself on your knees. Stand tall. Take a look at that storm and say what my sensei Jack Burton always says. Give it your best shot. Strike the music.